goes with our theme, I feel like, this weekend, is being consistent on our message about Pure, are consistent about our products. And so one of the things that I focused on when I had done palliative medicine prior to doing a career change and going into preventative medicine was talking about the quality of life. And I don't know about you, but I don't really want to end up in a nursing home. I want to end my life living independently, and that is what I'm here to share with you today. We've had some great lectures this weekend. I'm super impressed by all of the doctors and providers that we've had on stage. And I too learn something new every time I'm here or in front of a speaker, just on the products of what's specific in our products, and then just the overall general information. This blows my mind. 6% of our U.S. adults are metabolically healthy. That means 94% of us are busted. That is crazy to me. And I thought that the numbers got better actually after COVID, and they have not. I just heard on the radio by the American Heart Association, this is really scary, but what Rachel had reported on Friday morning was that by 2050, 60% of us women will be obese and have hypertension. And that to me is very scary. That means my job is even harder. That means all of your jobs are even harder. We need to get the message out on Pure. 25% will be diabetic. I am so happy that RFK is in helping out, because we have changed the pyramid. We have turned the pyramid, the food pyramid, upside down basically. And we are now focusing back on what is food. We are focusing on proteins, we're getting rid of the low fat, the high carb diets, we're focusing on healthy fats, and real food. So I always tell my patients, if it's not caught, killed, grown, or picked, don't eat it. We really want to try to minimize our processed intake. Feeling good doesn't necessarily mean you're metabolically healthy. We know when people don't feel good, and they're like, well, my labs look normal. Why am I feeling so bad? But it's also very tricky for people who are feeling okay, and they're silently getting worse. The metabolic data does flag those pathways. We're going to learn about some oxidative stress, what that is. We know our foods are nutrient depleted. We've already learned about that. We know that chronic stress does reshape our aging process. And we are going to talk about the foundations and how important it is. This is a big one. I wanted to bring this in because all of you know somebody taking the GLP-1. We were just talking about our table. Diabetics have the automatic approval of GLP-1s. But the problem is bigger than that. Those are powerful drugs, peptides and GLP-1s, but they don't solve the problem. We need to focus on our digestion. Microbiome, we just heard a fantastic lecture on mental health. It starts in the gut, the vagus nerve, to the brain. We need to focus on digestion and absorption of nutrients, those digestive enzymes that we just, Rachel had shared with us about. They naturally decline as we age. We must be supplementing digestive enzymes. And then stress alone produces less stomach acid. I had a patient text me yesterday going, oh my gosh, I'm having the worst heartburn. Is it possible from the semaglutide? Yes. What should you be? Everybody should be on digestive enzymes. Shame on me for not making that a priority before somebody starts. Bad energy. Well, this we hear a lot about. What is bad energy? What does it look like? I shared about this last year, focusing on women. But we're going to talk about it with men too. Metabolic dysfunction, that is not going to go away. We know that diabetes is going to be, like I said, 25% in our females by 2050. What is metabolic dysfunction? Is basically when we have our energy system is not working properly. Oxidative stress, I'm going to talk about that in a minute, and chronic inflammation. Dr. Tara Moore talked about that it is the foundation of all disease. It is all things bad health. So we know that low line of inflammation long-term can cause tissue damage. What's happening in oxidative stress? So I want to I like pictures, I'm a visual learner, and as we age, our cell, you have the normal cell, and then you have the cells that are attacked by free radicals. We heard Amy talk about it yesterday about oxidative stress and how that can lead to the big C word that none of us like to talk about, but I want you to think about the car engine, okay? Think about the exhaust pipe. the exhaust pipe stops working well, right? So you've got all this exhaust building up, and that is exactly what happens with free radicals. They actually make the cell become hard, rigid, and then you don't absorb nutrients that we should be absorbing, and we don't eliminate the waste from the cell. So that is what happens in oxidative stress, and we have products that you've heard about that actually help against that. We have 6 pillars, 3 on this slide, and then we've got 3 on the next slide, which I'm going to share with you. I'm going to briefly talk about, because I can't talk about all the 6 pillars, but we already know about clean nutrition and supplementation. We've got it all right here. And Pure does a fantastic job about getting their hands on the right products. We don't have redundancy. We're building a foundation. You heard Kristen talk about the foundation, the cement part, not very fascinating, but very important. Muscle and metabolism is great because we need muscle, and we're going to talk about that. Sleep and recovery. Balanced hormones. I do a lot of balancing of hormones. There are men and women that need a little bit of hormone. The brain needs hormones. The brain needs minerals and nutrients. Mental health and well-being, we just heard about that. That was a fantastic talk. And then reducing toxic overload and optimizing gut health. I changed it this year and I added that. That is so important. I got into Pure because of my gut dysfunction, my gut dysbiosis. I will do a lot of gut testing in patients that sometimes need to see it, right? Numbers, seeing things, and believing. But the top issues that I find, and I don't know if Dr. Enkamp wants to comment, but polyphenols or deficiency, we're all deficient in polyphenols, which I'll probably educate about that. Fiber, huge one. That is probably one of the most important things that we're deficient in. And then stress. Remember we talked about that slide with the digestion and the stress, and it suppresses our stomach acid. So we have our hands on the best gut health products that can help with that, and it's helped me. When I got into just real brief, if you don't know my story, I had leaky gut, IBS most of my life, and then was diagnosed with bacterial overgrowth. I could not get rid of my bacterial overgrowth. I had to go on these antibiotics, very expensive antibiotics. I kept having my friend prescribe me the antibiotics to the point where she was like, go back to the GI doc. And I finally, Kira just happened to be coming over. She said, I'm all in. I just went to this business meeting, and I was like, let me try your stuff, because I tried everything. I was prescribing myself supplements. I was prescribing myself protein powders. Nothing was helping me. I tried sauerkraut juice. I put my feet in the water. The water turned black. I mean, I was popping in bee pollen. I mean, you name it. I had a whole refrigerator and cupboard of different things. And nothing was working. I was suffering. And at that time, it was during COVID. I was working long hours in the hospital. I was dealing with death and dying. And so something had to change, and that's what brought me to Pure. Back to bringing us to longevity, though. Muscle and anti-aging. This is the organ that we need to be focusing on. I am so impressed with Rachel, who works out 2 hours a day. Jen, Dodie, who has the best looking arms I've ever seen. We should all be striving for muscle, because 1 pound of muscle, look how many calories that burns when you're just resting and doing nothing. Think about the paychecks you're getting paid with Pure and you're not doing anything when you're sleeping. We need to be burning calories while we're sleeping. Muscle ages after the age of 30. You start to lose muscle. Look at what accelerates the muscle loss. Low protein diets. How many of you know that barely, if I tell my patients, I need you to get 100 grams of protein, or at least start tracking how many grams of protein they're getting. They're only getting 20 to 30 grams. That's eye-opening for them. So we have to strive for that. Hormone disruption, we're going to talk about. Inflammation, there's that inflammation again. Sedentary lifestyle, that is a disease state. That's a problem right there in itself. You heard Dr. Enkamp talk about do something. I just said to my son the other day, he is adorable and super sweet, but he does nothing. I'm like, just because you're skinny doesn't mean you can't have issues down the road. Those are actually my sicker people. Okay, so we have to be moving our body every day. Strength training, it doesn't have to be heavy weight. We do know that when you load muscle, like Matthew bench presses, he's building bone density, he's building muscle. Do you have to do that? No, but getting at least 7,000. Strive for a goal. If you're not getting 5,000 steps a day, then strive for the 5,000 steps a day. If you're meeting 5,000 steps a day, then strive for 7,000. Set little goals for yourself, just like you're doing on your Pure business. Ideally, you want to try to get your 2 to 3 times of using your muscles. I'm not a big fan of HIIT training. I used to be, but I suffer from injuries now. Sulfur is my best friend. And so I do utilize what I can now. I don't do the heavy, but I will do lifting, and I keep weights in my living room to remind me that I need to do it. Sleep and stress. Well, we just talked about that. I don't have to mention that too much, but I will say that if you're not sleeping, there's no supplement to replace sleep. Good quality and quantity of sleep is very important. But our supplements do help you manage stress and sleep. I always ask my patients, what is your sleep cocktail? It is not one. I'm amazed if somebody doesn't have to take one, but I don't find that. I don't like the gummies necessarily. I want them to utilize products that are actually going to help, because gummies, you don't know what's in it, and then gummies can lead to covering up on those hormone receptors. We want your bodies to sleep. You definitely want to sleep in the wee hours, because then you avoid that high cortisol rebound where your body thinks you need to be awake and then start, that's where the weight gain comes on. So it also throws off your leptin and ghrelin receptors. I talked a little bit about that last year. Leptin is the hormone that actually says, I'm not hungry anymore, and I'm full, let me stop eating, and then the ghrelin is like, I am hungry. So we don't want those receptors, and as you go into menopause, perimenopause, as females, we have disruption of those hormones. And we have great products that can actually prevent that. And, I didn't realize the metabolic slim that has the DNF10, that's a fantastic product. That's a fantastic ingredient. It's a bioregulator. It helps turn off those switches. Utilize what we have our hands on. And please, I have to thank Jen, because she added our We Do Not Care Club. If you are in perimenopause, you know this lady. But hormones, we know, are the messengers, the body's messengers. They help with fat storage. They can make you store more fat. They can help build muscle. Obviously, we talked about energy with regards to fatigue, your overall metabolism, sleep, and then mood, and then focus as well. So we know in menopause, from perimenopause, it's a 10-year phase from perimenopause to menopause. Everybody is your own unique snowflake. I have women who are as early as 40s, early 40s going into menopause, and I have women as old as late 50s, early 60s going into menopause. What makes them different? We're all different, but they all have these symptoms, right? And so the goal is to, sometimes we need to utilize hormones to treat those symptoms. And that's okay, because we were born to have hormones. I brought this in because I think it's very important. This gentleman right here, you can see the young man with optimal testosterone and the man who's deficient in testosterone. The more you work out and lift muscle, the more you have good testosterone levels. Donuts, beer, all of that high-carb diet will lower your testosterone naturally. We don't want to lower our testosterone, because look what happens. You get increased fat. You have bone loss. You have libido. I was sharing last night. Those men don't come to me until they start having a libido problem. So this is what we end up wanting to avoid. Endocrine disruptors are a complete problem in our society. We have, it is unreal what you're exposed to. I just saw a Facebook advertisement that your Apple Watch plastic is not good. It gets absorbed into your skin. Who knew? But we need to do, can we avoid everything? No. It's really tough to get into, to completely deplete things, to replace. We do our best, right? So we try to eliminate plastic. We want to utilize our glass bottles or our steel container. We want to try to avoid seed oils, because we know that those endocrine receptors, they can sit on your hormones and mimic fake hormones. And that is what leads to that chronic inflammation and then the big C, right? That is what depletes your body. This is a gentleman, man or woman, when you have too much excess estrogen. This is, think of the beer, donuts, high-carb diets. We're losing our testosterone. It is the estrogen that is going into the fat cells that is building up. That estrogen is what it leads to the big cancer over time. Okay, so don't be confused. We lose estrogen as we age, men and women. But what we don't want to do is replace it with excess bad estrogen. Does that make sense? Okay. reducing our toxic load. So we heard some great talks. Bioflavonoids, plant or polyphenols are your dark superfruits. So your goji, goyan, fusion, and it's the dark red and purple. The acai, those are all fantastic polyphenols. The gut needs polyphenols, your body needs polyphenols, and do you know that one shot of a superfruit is equivalent to a bowl of berries? Who wouldn't want to do that? You save on calories intake, right? Antioxidants. That was explained by Rachel and Melissa about the Immune 6 and Purexcel, and Dr. Tara Moore, and then we talked about it, like Amy talked about it. I want you to think about antioxidants as your fire extinguishers. You're putting out that oxidative stress. Some people will produce more oxidative stress than others. I did genetic testing on me. I am one. I had no idea, but my inflammation does rise up, so I understand it now. Liver support nutrients. Shame on me. I did not put all of our products in. I will definitely do that if I'm asked to come back again. But so you guys understand this. But we talked about that. You heard NAC, milk thistle, sulfur, glutathione. And then we have so many anti-inflammatory compounds. And I want you to think of the anti-inflammatories as your fire alarm modulators. Those are your alarm box. They kind of tell you where the fire is. That's what an anti-inflammatory is. So we've got a lot of products that are for our hands, that we get our hands on to help put that inflammation out. Other modalities, and shame on me, I did not put on cold plunging. I know there's some of you that love cold plunging. Time-restricted eating. Those modalities actually help with cell autophagy. That is what Amy talked about yesterday. That's the cell die-off. You want those bad cells to be eradicated so that then your body can continue to produce good, healthy cells. Relearn eating. This is so important. I will tell you, you can't exercise your way out of a bad diet. You can't take peptides and all the peptides you want if you're not eating healthy. It's not going to do anything. And you can't hormone your way out of a bad diet. So you have to learn how to relearn eating. And this is so important. We kind of talked about it last year. I'm going to harp on it again. The leptin and ghrelin, are you hungry or is it hormone related? Mindful, slow eating prevents and lowers that stress, that gastric stress. Prioritizing protein. We heard the protein talk. 25 grams, I would say, 1 gram per pound. Some people will even say 2 grams per pound of desired weight. So if your desired weight is 150 pounds, then you want to try to strive for 150 grams of protein. And then fiber. For men, it is 30 grams per day, and females, it's 25 grams per day. You have to get the fiber in. I don't go a day without the fiber. And that was, Mila was the one product, Kara will tell you, that I initially started out with when her and her sister did a detox, and I had to give it back because my gut wasn't ready for it. And now I don't go a day without it. Healthy fats, we've got a lot of good products with healthy fats, and then timed eating. Some people do benefit from the timed eating, 16 hours off, 8 hours on. What we have, this is all of what we kind of heard about this weekend. All of the products, our daily builds, all of them have these ingredients, which is what our bodies need. Our bodies need minerals. They need minerals as a kid. You need minerals before you get pregnant. You need minerals as you age. We need them. This is very doable. This is the Core Plus the Serene and the probiotic. I'm not going to go into that because it's already been talked about. And then we have resources. Utilize resources, guys. I was at a talk and I had no idea that the EWG, if you do the tap water, will go in your area and help you determine what is in my water. Is my water bad for me? Is my water, and then utilize, we have EWG products for our skin. But what else can EWG? And then you can use Yucca, Think Dirty, start doing checking your labels. You want to try to get as clean as possible. So thank you. And